we got some interesting feedback for the last two power level ranking videos.
Yep. The one for Megami Tensei and the one for Persona.
We got some interesting feedback, and there's always the common request for, what if we merge the two? And we here at Fither, we like to take things further beyond. So we made the definitive ultimate power tier list for only the strongest characters.
Yeah, only the strongest characters that have ever existed. And we had to go through a lot of fiction to figure this one out. You know?
And we couldn't do this alone. We got help from the James Theory and John Death Battle.
Mm-hmm.
Their science was a huge help for making this list.
Yeah, very well respected in their fields. Go follow them on Twitter.
Yeah.
Links in the description.
Mm-hmm. And I feel with all that information, all that research, all the Daisenshu's, light novels, OVAs,
drama CDs,
yeah. I think we...
Hieroglyphs.
Yeah, the hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
A couple of trading card games were used. Not too many, though.
Some shit on the Rosetta Stone.
Yeah. Gotcha games and pull rates.
We stared at the sun for a while.
After a while, the answers were revealed to us, and I feel this is the most accurate power ranking tier list that will ever be.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. So let's start off in F tier.
Okay.
So
these are the most powerful, like the weakest out of the most powerful things that will ever exist, ever.
And to show how big of a deal this all is, consider that this starts off where the Megami Tensei power chart left off.
Right. So, just for reference, Steven is a character who is more powerful than literally God. Mm-hmm. And in the Megami Tensei one, he was like quadruple S. However, on this, he is in a lowly F tier. And not only is it Steven, but it's Steven packing his AK.
Yeah.
Which gives him a huge increase in power, obviously.
Yeah, because have you gotten shot by an AK before?
I don't think you have. I haven't.
Yeah, neither have I.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how much that would hurt, so therefore, we can only imagine.
Right. You know, it's just scaling off of, like, it's a new principle that we've come up with. It's called scaling by shit that doesn't exist. Yeah. So therefore, you know, you get shot, you don't know how much it hurts. That means it's infinite hurt, is essentially the theory that we're going by. It's a fact, actually, Jack.
Next up, we have Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Marth, singing the Fire Emblems. Now, if Steven is the strongest being in the Megami Tensei universe, then Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Marth is without a doubt the strongest being in the Fire Emblem. And seeing how they crossed over in the beloved game Idle Fantasy, it's very clear that they would be of the equal power level.
Right, because as we all know, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Marth fought 15 million copies of Yahweh and beat them all.
Yeah, all while singing. He can do that.
Yeah, while singing.
If he wasn't singing, he could have concentrated even better. He could have taken out like at least 3 more Yahwehs.
Yeah. You know, you could argue that he maybe belongs in E tier, but for this, we're going to say that he's in character and he's singing and being a huge faggot.
Yeah. Next up is Sagita. Now, this is a bit of a wild card here, because she is a character that we made up.
Yes.
For Atlas.
Right, and then they stole it from us, very rudely, might I add.
Yeah. Now, while Atlas gave her a great power level decrease to make her fit in with BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle's power level, we're going by the official canon versions that we were created, the ones intended by the creators.
And we're also using the Daisenshu for just for reference, just so we can figure out the multipliers on her various transformations.
Yeah. So Sagita, with the Oculus down, was known for just like erasing the consciousness of Yahweh. That was her biggest.
Right. It's true, and as we all know, that's a multiversal level threat.
So easily,
easily multiversal. Just on a bad day, she could destroy the consciousness of reality and just go and kill it. The action's very free.
Yeah, but with Steven, when Steven took out the gun on her, she had to back off. So he alone is holding her off from reaching E tier.
Yeah, so all these guys pretty much scale off of Steven with the gun.
Next up, we have the E tier. And here's where we start to see some bigger boys that you may not recognize. First up, we have Gohan Mexico. Now, we couldn't use the regular Daisenshus for this. we had to go by Mexican news headlines. We had to do a lot of going through newspapers for this.
Right. They told us a lot of Broly is coming back.
Yeah.
But as we all know, that's ludicrous.
Yeah. But they also told us a lot about Gohan and El Hermano. Now, this is Gohan assuming he has all of the transformations available to him and he can use them at any point in time.
Right. Such as Calvo, Blanco 100%,
Grease, all of them. Right. And we're assuming he can also, like, mix them together if need be.
Right, stack his multipliers on top of his multipliers, which is something we saw him do in Dragon Ball Super episode 903.
Yeah. When you stack all of his multipliers together, he starts to edge out Steven with Gun. And when you throw in the hero's multipliers on top of that, then he just wins.
Right.
Now, that propels him all the way to E tier. So good on Gohan Mexico. This one is one that you thought was an important addition to this category. These next two, actually.
Right, so, next up we have Dangta as a Super Saiyajin Purpura. Now, as we all know, in the events of Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, Dagda gets split into two Dagdas, and then one of the Dagdas gets killed, and the other one pretends like he learns a lesson, even though he's just a clone of the original one. Mm-hmm. Now, as we know, what happens in Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse Persona 2, Dangta is not satisfied with his destruction of God, and turns his sights on the Axiom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in order to do that, he eats Nanashi and attains the new form Super Saiyan Purpura. Mm-hmm. And not only does he slap the Axiom, he slaps him so hard that he fucking disintegrates, and a whole new universe is created and then destroyed 15 million times. So that's at least Quantaverse level, which is a fucking scientific theory that Stephen Hawking left on his deathbed. A Quantaverse. And it's pretty obvious that he's at least 2 tiers above the Axiom, who, as we know, was whooped by Steven with a gun. You could argue he's in D tier. He's around, like, well, I don't want to spoil who's next, but you could argue he could fight one of these guys. But just to be safe, I have him here, just because he got defeated by our next character, Benjamin Franklin.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
It's all about the Benjamins, and this is specifically Benjamin Franklin with the smirk, and I'll explain why that is. So, as we all know, in Shin Megami Tensei Persona 4 Apocalypse 2-3, Dangta has become the new Axiom, and is like an even stronger Axiom than the previous Axiom. He's like the Axiom squared. Mm-hmm. And this happens roughly around the time when the Civil War was happening, and as we all know, Benjamin Franklin, well-respected Civil War general, and he declared war on Dangta since he had supplanted himself as the leader of the Confederacy. So Benjamin Franklin, with his redcoats, went and defeated Dangta, but Dangta had the upper hand until Benjamin Franklin realized he could crack into the code of the game and pull an Undertale, and give himself a constant state of smirk, and this is SMT4 smirk we're working with, so he was unhittable, and everything he did crit. And that's the only way he was able to edge out and beat Dangta, so because it was such a close fight, I'm gonna say that they're in the same tier.
Yeah, it's only because he got the smirk. Next up is Nico Yazaway. Now, after the events of the first 5th wrestle that was completed, Nico got the 5th wrestle belt from Jivu. And to basically cement her superiority as the prime idol, she proceeded to absorb Yahweh into herself and become a quantiversal idol. Now, the sheer amount of her existing across every conceivable existence is enough to make her actually unkillable. Any death...
Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Marth was scared shitless at the presence of such a powerful idol.
Yeah. If Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Marth is afraid of her, and the music is taken into consideration, Nico Yazaway can just transcend music and thought entirely. Additionally, she just has all the base powers of Yahweh, but that's low shit at this point, but it's still worth
that's like baby crap. That's like what, Saiyan Saga level in comparison to these sorts of characters, Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, but it's still worth taking into consideration because it's scaled up by the sheer amount of her existence. Moving up to D tier, we got your boy. Now why don't you tell us a bit about Slomasu?
Okay, so Slomasu is here because he possesses one of the most powerful... Well, first I'll give you a little bit of background. Slomasu is obviously the progenitor of the Zero Fast People plan, in which he tried to eradicate all things that can move any bit quicker than a slug. And so he obviously declared his war. This happened during the events of Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse 4, when Dankta and Benjamin Franklin had learned to get along and formed a coalition and put their differences together. Slamasu appeared and decided they were too fast and declared his grand war against them and sung the Parish Song, which killed them after 3 turns, and they had nothing that they could do to stop it.
There was no place to run.
Right, no place to run. And so Slamasu just fried them instantly. So his placement here in D tier seems pretty
Additionally, like, Parish Song Plus, when he obtained it, just erased anything that was moving faster than. So...
Right, anything that exists even as a concept really can be destroyed by the Parish Song.
Yeah. But anything that because he only specifically targets things that move faster than him, that turns other characters' strengths into negative. Honeycomb Timeline Audrey is kind of a big deal. If you kept up with the Honey Pop timeline, you would know that it splits into 3 timelines. The hero is sent back in time, the hero just keeps on living, and the hero fails. And Honeycomb Audrey is when the hero fails. And she rises to the occasion and does a shit ton of crack. And, like, the amount of crack that she was doing was enough to transcend the bitch levels that were previously thought of.
It was just an inconceivable level of crack. It would require, like, a 4th dimensional space to fit that much crack.
Yeah.
That's how much crack she did.
Yeah. And that allowed her to become, like, 4th dimensional bitchiness. And as we know from Life is Strange 2, after the storm, backtalk battles can just solve any problem imaginable. Yeah. And Audrey, having transcended bitchiness, can just instantly win those. She always has the perfect comeback to anything. And that just allows her to erase lesser thoughts. Now, she wouldn't target anything higher than her because they didn't bug her.
Shadow Kanji is here because he has absolute dominion over sexuality, and anything that could possibly conceivably fuck anything can just be crushed under the weight of his gayness.
Yeah, because Shadow Kanji is gay.
Yeah, he's gay, you know.
And not only that, he can influence the thoughts of others to, like, kind of confuse people. Yeah. He can manipulate the collective consciousness very easily and just make you think other characters are gay or, like, trans or whatever. That's the level of power Shadow Kanji has.
He's very powerful.
And this is most relevant in Persona 4 The Platinum, where he encountered Dankta, Super Saiyan Purpura, and he just made him think he was gay.
It's true. And then he turned gay.
Yeah. And then everyone else thought he was gay. And it was very shameful.
Yeah. And then he killed himself.
That puts him in D tier easily, just for the sheer amount of shame he can give others. Next up, in C tier, we have Time Patrol Honik. Now, if you watch the 5th Gen Rampa stream, you would know the level of social manipulation she's capable.
She's a mastermind.
Yeah. Not only can she keep up with Merge Zamasu, Merge Slow Masu, Manipulated Rants, and Monica, just casually, in strength and intelligence. She also spent a great amount of time preparing for the Zero Mortals plan, learning new techniques constantly. And not only, but she doesn't even use them because she can use just higher levels of social manipulation to cause other people to kill each other for her as soon as she gets what she needs. She is only in C tier because of her strong sense of justice, which prevents her from doing bigger damage. We can only assume that she can do higher damage, but we can't confirm.
Yeah, and as we all know, everybody from here going up are pretty good people. Yeah. There's not really a lot of malicious, evil entities up here. Fortunately for the fuckiverse.
Yeah. Now, next up is another stream character, Kanye Persona.
Yeah, Kanye Persona West. So, Kanye Persona West comes from the now canceled Nocturne streams. And by the very nature of no longer existing, yet continuing to exist, he has figured out the power of self-observation, by which he can observe himself and just not die as a concept. So it's similar to an Undertale. And Undertales, we will explain, because there's a character further up who has power over Undertales. But essentially an Undertale is anything that in any way, shape, or form has to do with, like, a meta commentary about games or, like, unused shit in games. And as we all know, having any sort of Undertale power makes you an extremely mighty entity. And so Kanye Persona West has these sorts of powers Some of his adventures from the drama CD include the time where he fought Shadow Kanji and was immune to being called gay. He just didn't care, and he continued to be straight. And Shadow Kanji was like, what the fuck? So we can assume he's definitely stronger than D tier, but to what extent, we're not sure. He did fight Benjamin Franklin as a secret boss and whooped him, but a lot of the shit going on with Ben, when he has the smirk, is kind of inconsistent. Sometimes he's like just unstoppable. Sometimes he loses to like James Madison, which doesn't make a lick of sense. But sometimes power scaling's inconsistent like that.
Next up, we have Akechi Goro in his Gringo transformation. Now, this is when Akechi achieves such a high level of whiteness that he can phase in and out of existence and bring himself back at will. Now, bring yourself back from non-existence effectively makes you super double immortal. Any amount of destruction you can just come back from because of his sheer amount of white. Additionally, he can activate the cringe force, which just causes people to feel really uncomfortable and shrink into their own bodies. And that's kind of like some gross body horror shit. I don't want to do it.
And he can do it.
In the Persona 5 Akechi Goro The Resurrection light novel, you get to see him just come back from a state of erasure from everyone's fucking collective subconscious in mementos.
Yeah. Everybody in the whole quantum verse in every timeline ever forgot about Goro as a concept, but he was still like, I don't care.
Yeah. He came back. All right, next up, a classic. He's here just for his impact on the game's meta, Megafog.
Right, so Megafog, as we all know, arguably the most powerful Pokemon ever created. He was banned from being banned.
Yeah.
Because he was so fucking powerful. Every time anybody tried to use him in a battle, it would brick both of the cartridges. Yeah. So, by that logic, he can go to any video game or work of fiction and just destroy it.
He's truly an Undertale in that sense.
Yes, he very much is an Undertale.
Yeah. Now, what's holding him back is he needs to use one of his move slots on Dragon Ascent. And sometimes you don't want to use that. So, that's the only thing that's holding him back from B tier or even above.
Right, that's the one weakness he has, is that he can at any time only use 4 techniques, whereas many of the people up from him are far more versatile.
Yeah, they're using like 40 techniques.
Yeah, at least.
Moving up to the B tier, where we start to see real characters, like by comparison. Like everyone here is a real character that matters, but this is where you start to see the real shit.
Right, the real boys.
Yeah. And starting off the real boys, we have a real girl, Ultra Instinct Caroline. Now, this is mastered Ultra Instinct. Ultra Instinct Caroline occurred in Persona 5 Dancing Star Knight, when Alice realized that no one cared about Lavenza, but they still had to push the Velvet siblings to some degree of relevancy. Justine got Super Saiyan 4, and Caroline got Ultra Instinct, and it's clear which one was the bigger boost to their character. The amount of sick dance moves Caroline was capable of performing while in Ultra Instinct are impressive, but what's truly impressive is the fact that she just fucking danced all over both Benjamin Franklin and a higher tier character who's in A tier, who we'll get to later. The fact that she was able to bust a move on them is truly a feat to behold, but this is an outlier, so we can only truly put her in B tier.
Yeah, Ultra Instinct Caroline, as was established in the story of Dancing whatever the fuck, was each twin became as strong as Lavenza because Zenkai boost or something, and so that on its own is a huge multiplier. And then, as we know, they did their training with Steven and became stronger than even he was. And then Steven tried to kill them for becoming too powerful, and then they beat him. And Caroline obviously became more powerful because she got the big boss's positive genes, whereas Justine got the recessive genes.
It's kind of cheap, but what can you do? Next up, we have Timebreaker Masako X. Now, this happens after the events of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, where Fu's been defeated, but Dragon Ball Z Abridged has ended, as well as Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Almost as a whole.
Right, it almost went extinct in the timeline he's from.
Yeah. Now, with nothing left to react to, and every what if to his mind fulfilled, he had no choice but to turn to the Time Breakers. And what he's capable of just doing is just going in and fucking rewriting anything to give anyone any kind of ludicrous power-up or changing their alignment at will.
Right. Just an example of what he's capable of. At one point, he went and turned Megafug into a never-used Pokemon. Like, he can just do that.
Yeah. At another point, he made Raditz turn good. But also, then he made Raditz turn neutral and then bad again. But then he gave Raditz a redemption arc. So Raditz truly turned good in the end. You want to take this next one?
Yeah, sure. So now we have Nocturne Lisa. This is another Undertale. But it's an Undertale that's even more powerful than Kanye Persona. Because whereas Kanye Persona is just some weird machination of our minds, Nocturne Lisa actually does exist in the files of Nocturne. And so as a result, she attains an Undertale power, which allows her to exist while not existing, except on a grander scale. As we all know, Time Patrol Honoka went and tried to defeat her because she was associated with the Zero Mortals plan, and just lost very, very badly. It was pretty embarrassing, but that's also because Nocturne Lisa had some help from the next character, Shiho, but it's pretty safe to say that even Nocturne Lisa by herself was enough to beat Honoka. Plus, she's also just really spooky, and that always helps in a battle to the death.
Yes, it's called the Tails Doll factor.
Yeah, it's the Tails Doll factor. The Tails Doll not quite enough to make it onto this list, but...
Now, I know what you're thinking. Is Shiho? What's she doing up here? I don't know.
Yeah, so Shiho, as we know, fights Goro and just slaps him pretty easily. Yeah. She figures out how to become Cognition at one point due to the fact that that after she jumped off the roof because of the Kamoshida shit, she damaged her soul so badly that it fractured and repaired itself 15 billion times, and it was like a Zenkai boost every single time it happened. So she became outer quadruple versal level, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, just go read the wiki, or if you want to know more about how powerful Shiho is.
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain the next one as well.
Okay. So, next we have Rainbow EY.
In A tier.
In A tier, we have Rainbow EY. Rainbow EY, pretty consistently the most powerful Persona 5 character.
Easy.
There's no other Persona 5 characters on this list,
yeah,
right?
There's nothing tops him.
Right, nothing tops Rainbow EY. Rainbow EY, as we know, appears in Persona 5 too. So as we know, the gun shop is right next to the Velvet Room door. So sometimes on occasions, EY would just leave the shop to go get lunch or whatever, and see this weird fucking blue door, and go in, because he can do that. He was a wildcard user all along. And Caroline and Justine, just on their lunch break, they would just fight each other. And they just fucking beat the shit out of each other. And EY became so enormously powerful, he jumped from being just like a normal human to on par with Ultra Instinct Caroline.
The best Caroline could hope to do is out-dance him.
And as we all know, EY don't dance.
So that's the most she could ever hope to do. And he was taking on Ultra Instinct Caroline at the same time as Super Saiyan 4 Justine. As for what about the rainbow color? Was that explained in one of the Daisenshu's?
Yeah, I believe it was. So basically, the rainbow color is what happens when... do you know what a hypercube is?
Of course.
Okay, so what happened was the hypercube that makes up Persona crashed because of all the spin-offs. It couldn't maintain its own weight within the universe, and it tried to fold in on itself, but there's no way to fold a four-dimensional object without crushing the third dimension below it. And so what happened was there was what's that thing called? The Large Hadron Collider? Yeah. Like, the two bits of matter from the walls of the dimensions folded in on itself and created a rainbow. And EY was, of course, in the center of the rainbow and absorbed all of its power, and just decided that he did not want the universe to end. But the only way to stop that from happening was to absorb the rainbow, taste the rainbow. And so he became Rainbow EY.
Next up, we got Golden Femc. This is from the Persona 3 spin-off that came after Persona Q2. I think it was Persona 3 FE something.
FE something. Yeah, I can't remember. Some weird obscure thing.
Yeah, it was one of those fucking Roman letters. Femc usurped the normal main character's status as canon character for the entire game. And nobody batted an eye. At no point was the timeline fucking restored. And this was because she had Golden Femc unlocked at the end.
Yeah, she did all her training in what's referred to as non-canon hell, which is where all the things that don't exist go. And whereas most things just kind of wallow in their pity, what they don't realize is that through being in the non-canon zone, you can essentially materialize your own thoughts into power and just make up bullshit. And so she decided she was going to be as powerful as the most powerful Persona character, which is, of course, Rainbow EY.
with this in mind, she was able to break through the non-canon and throw main character Kun, who was currently being the Great Seal, in there. Afterwards, like, Nyx was all like, oh, I'm gonna go bust out now. But Golden Femsi easily just slapped Nyx the fuck out.
And destroyed death as a concept.
Yeah.
Nothing ever dies within the presence of Femsi now.
Yeah. Nothing ever dies in the Persona universe, period, anymore.
Yeah.
Making the entire Persona universe, obviously, F- tier. Next up, we got Hakaishin Chloe. This is Chloe after gaining the Hakai energy and becoming a being of pure destruction. Now, this goes back to what Audrey had earlier, but on a grander scale. Because
multiplied by an enormous degree.
Yeah. Amplified by the Hakai energy to not only destroy someone's spirit, but also their very being. Now, she can't do this to characters that don't require being, so she can't technically defeat Nocturne Lisa or Kanye Persona, but she can easily take on most things below her.
Yeah, anything that has a tangible existence to it can just be instantly wiped out. But she cannot destroy that which does not exist.
Mm-hmm. She does have a couple of minor weaknesses, but they're so unbelievably like specific that it'll never happen ever. When she can't beat someone who agrees with her. This is already just a in theory concept right here. But if they completely agree with her, she has no dominion over. But
it takes an advanced level, like a fifth dimensional level sass to defeat her. Mm-hmm. At which point the Hakai energy will just be ineffective.
Mm-hmm. So but nobody so far, even in higher tiers, has agreed with her on anything. Another one of her weaknesses is she cannot work with other people. She can only fucking leech. And in that in herself gives her more power. But as we all know, the power of friendship is a fucking 6S tier thing that we couldn't fit on the list.
Okay, so next up we have Vincent. As you know from the Megami Tensei power chart, we received a lot of complaints about where's Vincent? Mm-hmm. And so we decide, alright, here's where Vincent is. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why we didn't have Vincent on the previous chart was because he just didn't fit. He was such a stronger being.
Yeah.
Now, as we all know, in Persona 3 Portable, Vincent and Femsi interact, mm-hmm. and in the drama CD, Boku no Vincent-kun, Vincent and Femsi have a battle to the death, mm-hmm. and Vincent destroys her, and that's what sends her to the non-canon realm.
Yeah, she was canon before.
Right, but Vincent fought her and defeated her and sealed her away in that dimension. Then after she breaks out as Golden Femsi, she returns and they have another fight, and they're about even, they can't really beat each other, so it's pretty safe to say that he's around the same tier as her.
Now, keep in mind, Vincent only achieved this power after having all the fucking sex that he did.
Yeah.
Most notably, he had sex with Alex from Shin Megami Tensei Deep Strange Journey, who, as we all know, is the daughter of Lucifer.
And this, of course, gave him time travel powers and allows him to superimpose himself onto any timeline, just whenever he wants.
Just to fuck things.
Yeah, just to fuck things.
And yell at things that he's not sure if he should fuck or not.
Yeah, he's, the Time Patrol has him listed as one of the most dangerous threats to all of time.
Yeah.
Time Patrol Honoka hates him. Timebreaker Masako thinks he's a swell guy.
Next up, we have S tier with the Sans Undertale. Now, what makes this guy so special compared to regular old Sans?
Sans on his own is a pretty strong guy. He's got, like, teleportation. He's got, like, what appears to be time-stopping powers, and he's generally just a pretty strong guy.
He's got PK Flash. He beat Gygus.
He's got PK Flash. He did. He can turn your own, like, doubts about yourself and like your sins into physical damage. Mm-hmm. But Sans Undertale is the most powerful Undertaler. And as we expressed earlier,
one exception.
Yeah, with one exception, but that's kind of a weird case. So, an Undertale, as we described earlier, is anything having to do with any amount of meta commentary on a video game or any sort of like debug thing or anything that's unused. And he's the absolute master of this. So he can destroy things that don't exist and has just complete dominion over the coding and just anything having to do with the way a universe is constructed.
Mm-hmm. He can exploit any mechanic and just break the rules of any specific reality. Now this already makes him very powerful. But you can't forget that he's also got the power of the fucking like dumb fan base around him. And that allows him to transform into any variation of Sand. Just look up on SoundCloud Megalovania or Megalo, and you'll see all the different forms that Sand's Undertale can take. All of them more powerful than the last. And against a fucking, like, multi-canon dimensional shapeshifter like Sand's Undertale, there's no way. Fucking no way.
Yeah, and as we all know, Sand's Undertale at one point got into a fight with Hakaishi and Chloe,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, I'm gonna fucking Hakai you, you stupid Skelly! And he just went, "Brr," and he didn't care.
Yeah. Alright, next up, we got Nuclear fucking Frieza.
His most powerful form.
Yeah. Like, Golden, Ultra Stick, Nuclear fucking Frieza.
Nuclear Frieza.
Alright.
So, Nuclear Frieza is Frieza's strongest form he attains in the Tournament of Power 2.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, after Dragon Ball Super, Android 17 and Frieza get married since Android 17 redeemed him and turned him into a good guy.
And also, Android 17 found out that his wife was sleeping with Ader.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, Frieza learns how to love. Android 17 awakens something within his cold kokoro. The atoms within his cold, dry, shriveled up heart split. And he explodes. And an explosion so big, the Omni King was like, oh fuck. And it destroyed all of existence. But since Nuclear Frieza has power over atoms, he just reconstructed the whole universe.
Started with
especially
17.
Starting with Android 17. And just they were truly an Adam and Eve like figure, and just recreated the whole universe as it was. And they have regular sparring sessions. Android 17 pretty much always wins, even when he's kind of fucking around. So it's safe to say that Nuclear Frieza, even as powerful as he is nothing compared to Android 17.
Yeah, though it is important to know that by recreating a universe, Frieza also proves that he can also destroy a universe.
Yes.
Because if you can create it, you can, by that logic, destroy it.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. It only makes sense. Next up is the angry fucking video game nerd. Now, I don't think I need to explain this, but the angry video game nerd always comes back no matter how much he fucking dies, no matter how much he, no matter how much he fucking shits out of his body. By all logic, he should have no fluids left in his body. He should just be a fucking zombie corpse, man. A mummy. But he isn't. He can, because there is just an infinite amount of matter inside the nerd at all times.
Yeah. And it's all anger. It's all physical anger.
And by becoming more angry, he can condense this fucking infinite mass even further than it already is.
And create a double infinity.
Yeah. Double infinity anger, and it only gets higher the more angry he is.
Yeah, he's like the Hulk, except way more ridiculous.
Yeah. The reason why he's this high is because of the death battle between him and Mitsuru Kurijo. Well-received death battle that happened in Season 6. It was the finale, because it was so highly requested.
Yeah. One of the more well-researched ones, too, as well. You know, usually those death battle guys, they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about.
Hey, don't talk shit about John Death Battle.
Yeah, actually, John Death Battle is a good guy. But his offspring, Jim Death Battle, that guy's a fucking idiot. So...
That was the most well-researched one, but it also had the most collateral damage out of any death battle. Basically, everything from the lower tiers got involved in some way, shape, or form during the conflict between the two. And that, with base Mitsuru, it was just a fucking curb stop. But with the next character, things sort of level the playing field.
Super Mitsuru. As we established, regular Mitsuru was just no match, even with the assistance of Megafog, Audrey, Timebreaker Masako X, and Sagita. Just no chance. But then she found the Chaos Emeralds.
Now, she got this from when Sega bought Atlas. The Chaos Emeralds just became part of the Persona universe. Normally, only Yuna Urukami uses them, and that's just who gives a shit. But when Mitsuru used them, she became Super Mitsuru.
Yeah, since she has dominion over the entire universe. She's been granted this power by Sega, who, as we all know, is owned by a character who appears further up.
Now, what makes it so that way Mitsuru is on the same level as the nerd, despite beating him in the death battle?
So, Super Mitsuru and the nerd are on the same tier only because Super Mitsuru is obviously on a time limit.
Yeah.
She needs more money in order to keep the thing going, and even though she has an infinite supply, she ran out of infinite and had to devour more and more universes in order to increase her infinity surplus. So there's a time limit on how long she can do that.
Yeah.
So that's her only real weakness. If she ran out of universes, the nerd would just destroy her.
Now, finally, we have Dedede. I don't think I need to explain to you how strong Kirby is. And Dedede could never hope to clobber that there Kirby. However, Dedede is capable of fucking infinitely clobbering Kirby's. In Kirby Star Enemies, the American box art version, Dedede canonically kills Kirby as Dedede. This is a canonical death of a main Nintendo character. Kirby couldn't even appear in Smash Brothers after this. No Kirby game has happened since. It's all been Dedede games. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he's superimposed himself into becoming the main character, which is a form of Undertale, and it's probably the most impressive of an Undertale we've seen since Sans Undertale.
Yeah, because alright, but here's the thing. Sans Undertale, in theory, could do a Dedede level feat, but he hasn't done it yet. Moving up a tier. Demon King Rance. Now, as any Rance scholar would know, the strongest Demon King was Kloof Kloof.
Yep.
Kloof Kloof took like a fucking 10,000 years to destroy, even when God created a bunch of dragons with max fucking stats to fuck up Kloof Kloof. But Kloof Kloof just endured for 2,000 years. Rance, in his Demon King form, solos all the previous Demon Kings, all the gods, and just fucking, he wins. He has level 3 sword, which allows him to cut anything, including concepts, and level 2 magic and level 3 demon. However, what makes Rance especially powerful is his access to the Undertale force with his infinite level cap, which is constantly raising because of his Demon King status. He is a character that will forever increase in power, and because of the invincibility field, will actually be able to attain it in time. Plus, he's an eternal Demon King, so he actually can't be killed or destroyed.
So next up, we've got Apocalypse Girl.
From Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, of course.
From Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, undeniably the most powerful Megami Tensei character ever. Well, there's actually one up ahead. Every time I say the most powerful character from blank, there's like one right up above that's stronger. So, Apocalypse Girl, as we all know, was just flat out stated to be superior to the Axiom in every conceivable way. Krishna didn't want to associate with her in the slightest, because he just knew that she would destroy his plans. Luckily, she doesn't care that much.
All she really cares about is, like, making things more like Persona.
Right, yeah. So, that's where her power comes from, is that she has the ability of altering causality and perception, and can change anything from something into something that it is not.
Similar to Shadow Kanji's ability.
Yeah, similar to Shadow Kanji, but much grander. So what happens is, Apocalypse-chan gets into a fight with the angry video game nerd and turns him into the nostalgia critic at one point.
Yeah, that's just disgusting right there.
Yeah, that's just disgusting.
No one wants to watch a nostalgia critic.
And so Apocalypse Girl can do that on it seems anything that's below her. The only time that she's ever tried to turn something into something shitty, it just didn't work. One time she tried to turn Android 17 into a not exciting character, and he was just like, no, I'm going to continue to be the best Dragon Ball character. And she was like, well, fuck. So we have a pretty good understanding of what she's stronger than and what she's weaker than.
Finally, we have Anna Sawatari. Now, this is a very confusing one, because she has no invincibility barrier, and she has a limit to her strength. However, she's got a inconceivable, incomprehensible power in the Rance series, and that's level 3 magic and actual retardation. Anything that her actually stupid mind can think of, she can do with her magical powers. Like, she cannot be killed because she's too fucking stupid to comprehend it, and her magical protector. You can't kill her because she can't comprehend what you're doing to her. Anything that's out of her comprehension is too much, and she doesn't comprehend very much. While at the same time, her lack of comprehension allows her powers to reach inconceivable levels, out-damaging Demon King Rance in the final battle in Rance 10. That's a fucking next level feat, out-damaging infinity.
Yeah,
because
man.
you don't comprehend it. It's an advanced level of autism and also atheism.
Atheism, as we know, about as strong as an Undertale.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah. Next up, we have SSS.
SSS. So now we're getting into 5 of the most powerful characters ever put to fiction.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, Android 17, the strongest Dragon Ball Super character, ignores concepts like death. He just kills himself and then decides that he was not actually dead.
Yeah.
So it is believed that he, in fact, has the power of the writer, or the author, rather, which allows him to just decide what he's doing in his own story. This is different from an Undertale. Like, an Undertale is like an underground thing, but the power of the author is like a surface level. I'll just change the story, fuck you. And so when Frieza went nuclear and destroyed the entire universe, it was not Frieza. Frieza can only create atoms. But Android 17 is the atom melder, which allows him to reorganize atoms in any way, shape, or form. And he proves this when he fights Demon King Rance and just turns his invincibility barrier into some poo-poo. And then defeats him.
And then he was covered in shit.
And then he was covered in shit. And he was like, ugh.
And then Android 17 just sort of like left.
Right. And as we all know, a moral defeat is worse than physical death.
Yeah. That's why Hakai Chloe and Audrey are as powerful as they are. Next up is Madara Uchiha, who actually did fight Demon King Rance in a fair battle. And while it took several rounds for us to like get a concrete win level, after multiple high-depth simulations, we managed to figure out that Madara Uchiha wins 4 times out of 6.
And Madara, as we all know, has one of the most deadly attacks in all fiction, the Whirlwind Shot, which allows him to destroy anything, pretty much, within a certain parameter.
Yeah, it's a not too accurate thing, but it always works. It always works when it works.
Yeah, and as we all know, he uses to get past an invincibility barrier. So that means that he's obviously stronger than
tool
Rance.
of the right.
Yeah. So he'd use that to get past Demon King Rance, which means he's probably about as strong as 17.
We even need to say anymore. Monaka is already a fucking SS tier character. We just didn't include him because we have this higher being to deal with.
Yeah.
This is Monaka with the added power of a Zamasu, which doesn't do all that much.
And Monaka Black, as we've seen in Dragon Ball Super, Monaka Black is able to tear open a hole in Dragon Ball and just bring in more things.
Yeah, he brought in One Piece.
He brought in One Piece, he fought Luffy and thought this guy is not a challenge and sent him back. So he brought forth some of the warriors on this list. You know, he brought in the Angry Video Game Nerd and defeated him pretty handedly. He brought in Vincent and crushed him. Nocturne Lisa wasn't a problem. So he's absolutely as strong, if not stronger, than many of the characters on this list. But the fact is that he's in Triple S because he defeats Apocalypse Girl, who's, as we established earlier, can turn things into things that they are not. Apocalypse Girl tried to turn Dragon Ball into Persona, as she tends to do, and Monaka was just like, no.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work.
Yeah. Next up, we have Nappa. I know what you're thinking. Nappa? All the way up here? Now keep in mind, it's well documented. The strongest Naruto characters are weaker than Nappa. So therefore, Nappa is stronger than Madara Uchiha.
Yes, who, as we know, is the strongest Naruto character. And most characters in fiction can't even touch Madara Uchiha.
Except for Nappa.
Yeah.
So that goes without saying. Nappa belongs.
Yeah, we don't need to get too much in depth in this.
Yeah, this one is just from a canon. This one's just from a canon statement.
Yeah, Toriyama and who the fuck made Naruto? I can't even remember his name.
Bill Naruto.
Yeah. As we all know, they met and decided Madara and Nappa are about as strong.
Yeah.
Pretty well documented. Just look it up, you know.
And finally, we have in SSS tier, we have Yukiko's cooking. Now, this is a concept that goes like through all of writing. It's just a poor writing device that can defeat any being because of how fucking repulsive it is. No matter what you are, if you touch this, if you smell it, if you dare say taste it, you will fall over unconscious and vomit for the next fucking week. You can't defeat it, no matter what your power level is. The only winning move is to not get near it. But if you're going to fight Yukiko's cooking, you have to get near it. Well documented, powerful being.
And as we all know, Rance attempted to get close to it, and the invincibility barrier was like, don't go near this fucking thing.
Yeah. That brought them to a fucking stalemate. because the invincibility barrier wouldn't allow him to get near the cooking. And the cooking, was just fucking food. It can't move. Now, finally, we're in SSSS tier.
Some of the mighty boys.
Almost the mightiest. Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Monica. Now, this goes back to Android 17, where he's got the power of the Rider. Monica also possesses this power, but she also has the power of an Undertale. This allows her to control both the surface level shit and the underground at the same time. And that's fucking terrifying. There is nothing that can escape that grasp.
Yeah, she is the most powerful of all the Undertalers.
As well as all the fucking Rider characters. The only thing that can beat her are fucking hack characters, like the other characters on this list. Also, she has a force that hasn't been used too much on this power level chart, and that's the waifu force. Now, the waifu force allows her to just have a defense force at all times that can seemingly come out of nowhere, regardless of her actual quality. And that defense force can just conjure up their own arguments, which she can then use to win.
Mm-hmm.
Undefeatable. Powerful girl. Next up, Ultimate Life Form Vegeta. Fucking red.
The second most powerful Dragon Ball character.
Yes. This happened after Vegeta just ascended through the shaft that he has gotten throughout all of Dragon Ball. And just transcended Dragon Ball, period. He's got a lot of the powers from Super Mitsuru, in addition to his own regular Saiyan powers, including all of Gohan's multipliers. Really, he's just a collection of multipliers that have stacked enough to transcend infinite characters like Demon King Rance and Android 17.
Yeah, he can stack infinities on top of infinities, and he can just decide when he wants to multiply something.
Yeah, he can make new forms on the spot. Every strand of his hair is another potential fucking multiplier he can add. And he's constantly growing hairs, because he's a gross Saiyan. And finally, in quadruple S tier, we have Josuke Rose Diamante Loco. Now, this one's pretty
the strongest JoJo.
Yeah, this one's pretty simple. Okay, so Diamante Loco Rose can fix anything. Logically, that means he can also destroy anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simple as that, because that's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works.
This is, up until this point, things have been, fairly fair. Everything has been based off of powers and shit. This top tier is only for the biggest of boys.
The most powerful things that we as a species have ever come up with.
Yeah. Gamma Seal, the sea turtle kaiju. Gamma Seal, as we know, you tribute one monster on your opponent's side of the field to special summon it to their side of the field. This allows him to overwrite any other being, essentially canceling out anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
And nothing, as we've researched, nothing can stop it. Undertales don't stop it. Whirling Shot is ineffective because Madara never gets a chance to shoot the damn thing.
Because he's been replaced with them.
Yeah. Josuke Rose can't destroy it because there's nothing there to destroy until he exists.
Yeah. Apocalypse Girl tried to change him into something else, but wasn't able to, because he replaced Apocalypse Girl. He overwrites other things' existence, and just is just horrible to fight against. I'm thinking this is a character that we will need to get banned, but we don't have anyone to ban him because the fucking people at Konami have been replaced with Gamma Seals. Next up, we got Method Man. He's got all the powers of Bedman, plus he was a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, and the Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. He's got a lot of cash, and cash rules everything around him.
All things within the universe, in every multiverse, in every gigaverse, in every timeline, are nothing compared to money.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of cash money.
He's got a lot of money.
Yeah, he could pay the fucking makers of this Power Rankings chart to put him in this tier. Or some Bedman stuff.
He can kill people with their own nightmares. He can replay his own actions in what's known as a deja vu. He can create pocket dimensions.
Yeah.
He can use powers from the backyard. He's just a very strong little boy.
Yeah. But combined with the powers of Method Man, unstoppable.
Yeah.
And next up, Android 17, Spiral Power.
The definitive strongest Dragon Ball character.
Yes.
So, Android 17, as we established, strongest guy in all of Dragon Ball.
Without multipliers.
And then it's... Yeah. But then, he unlocks his Spiral Power.
Yeah.
And becomes a being of such grace and such might. Everything below him is nothing, is minuscule compared to his power.
Yeah. Ultimate Life, he unlocked this form when fighting Ultimate Life Form Vegeta, who was continuously stacking multipliers on top of multipliers in order to just compete with Android 17. And eventually he started to get the edge. He was winning.
It's true. Yeah.
Until Android 17 unlocked Spiral Power. And finally, we have Melee Fox. Melee Fox has a good matchup against everyone else tier list. He's got really good mobility, a great air game.
Strong up smash.
Yeah. He's got the shine, and that also acts as a reflector. He's just an all-around really good character that has defined the meta for years now.
In the meta of all things that exist in fiction.
Yeah. All right. This has been the official Canon Everything Power Rankings.
Yeah. Strongest characters ever.
Yeah. You're welcome to argue with us, but
you'll be wrong.
Yeah.